More time when I watch some of the Arsenal highlights. Arteta, I'm seeing you when you used to kick ball. Like, bro, get back to the triangles. Get back to the triangles. Please. Just a little bit. Just merge 2022-23's attacking with our defensive emphasis. Make sure you're able to pivot. You understand that, okay, we're chasing a game now. The inverted fullback is not the thing. Can we just go with an addition, like a traditional left back? I'm not saying we win stuff, but we start to look a bit better, people. So yeah, it is what it is, people, in that regards. Since the resumption, of training in July, Arteta has begun implementing this change, fine-tuning his team ahead of the new season. I mean, you and every manager should be doing that. It's a process, something which may not shift overnight. I think every football fan can understand that, and I've been preaching that. You're not just going to train for 2 weeks and that, pardon me. In the defeat against Spurs that ended their tour, Arsenal occasionally looked like a work in progress. Occasionally. Nevertheless, their manager is convinced his team is headed in the right direction. He has to be, because if you're not convinced, regardless of what we think as fans, pack up and leave. And if the players are not convinced, pack up and leave. We know what we need to do next year. Working with Arteta's performance department, Arteta designed a staggered pre-season schedule. It began with a series of voluntary club-organized training camps, then a squad trip to La Manga club training facility in Mercer. The trip to La Manga was precious time for Arteta and his staff. Unlike the Asia tour, there were limited commercial and media commitments. Arsenal travelled light. The focus was almost entirely on football. That's first thing I've heard that encourages me. Arsenal flew out to Singapore on the 19th of July with a 30-man touring squad. We know Zubamendi, Kepa, Norgard was there, as was Dalman and Marley Salmon. Berto and Executive Chief Chair Tim Lewis stayed behind to try to close deals for further 2 first-team players, which were Gyökeres and Mosquera. Both were able to join, obviously, at some point. Noni Madueke, as we know, completed his deal before them, but is currently on holiday. Arsenal have been thoroughly impressed by Berta's relentless work ethic and are very happy with the execution of their transfer plans thus far. In terms of both timing and personnel, don't forget, people, on the topic of Gyökeres, there's a video. Well, the video should be coming out now, actually. We've overran, but F it. This video will take you to that after. Got your weekend sorted. We're at 172 likes. Can we keep it going? I mean, you should be impressed with Berta. Arsenal arrived at the W Hotel in Sentosa Island on the 19th of July. They were due to have their first training session on Monday morning, but the torrential rain meant the session was postponed until the evening. Arsenal trained at Singapore's National Stadium, and even with the roof partially closed, the heat and humidity were intense. I bet you if you saw, you know what, no, we're not going to add fuel to the fire with the Gyökeres stuff. That night, several first-team players attended Arsenal's kit launch. Yeah, that's good, man. Listen, I'm not here to big up the commercial stuff. I don't want to hear about that, if I'm completely honest with you. That's great stuff. I just want to hear about the football. On Tuesday, news broke. Big up Miles Lewis Skelly for that one. 49, Lewis Skelly. We know we played against AC Milan. Rice did speak about Dalman. Max is unbelievable. There's a lot of talk about Max and how good he is, but there's also 5 or 6 other young lads who also could play tonight. Marley, Josh Nichols, Louis Copley was on the bench. Not everyone's going to make it here. Let's be real, Rice. The group that have come with us have actually really, really surprised me. It's the first I've seen a lot of them, just how composed they are, calm they are for 15, 16-year-olds. It's different to how I was. They play with no fear, and we've got a really good crop of young players coming through. Obviously, Max will get all the talk, but there's a lot of other players as well that are really, really special. We've got a lucky future ahead of us with these players coming through. Dalman, amazing stuff. Although Arsenal won inside 90 minutes, there was a pre-arranged penalty shootout. We know Marley Salmon missed. The day after the game, the boys enjoyed a day off. Rice and Norgard played golf. The likes of Calafiori, Saliba, Kivio, Nelson, Wanyeri visited a theme park. Mosquera was spotted with the Spanish boys. On the evening of Friday, July the 25th, we attended an open training session. Okay, that was great. And obviously, we're seeing Gabriel Heinz doing what he's doing as well. Mosquera was paraded, trying to skip through the toss. We know Sagnog, Ray Parlour, and Gilberto Silva, go and try to do the commercial activities. I'm sorry, but does this not say club legends? That's a club legend, Romford Pele. That's a club legend, Invincible. A man that ran down his contract, snaked it, and went City, club legend. Okay. And I find that a pet peeve. Why I've said this last year. Why the fuck is Sagna there? pagan. Anyways, at the end of the training session, some kids were invited on the pitch. I must admit, I'm not trying to be disingenuous. I don't really care about that stuff. I just want to know about the tactical stuff, the training, all these things. The following day, Arsenal faced Premier League opposition in Newcastle. Before the game, new assistant coach Heinzer was practicing defending diagonal balls with Miles Lewis-Skelly. Miles Lewis-Skelly, you need to stick to Gabriel Heinzer like glue, because that man done it in the game. You could learn a lot defensively. He spent significant time working on defensive strategy with Lewis-Skelly. The new assistant coach has made a big impression on the training ground. He is forthright, direct, and frequently loud. Okay, so we got another mad bastard as part of the coaching staff. Love it. Certain players relish that coaching style. For others, it requires some adjustment. No, he signed for us. Everybody needs to adjust to that. If you're not going to adjust, what's going on? Come out. We all know we won the game. Several players had ice packs. Arteta had deliberated over whether to use Dalman in a game he knew would be intensely physical. While there's no doubt over Dalman's talent, with his body ready to withstand the heavy challenges, I mean, Joe Linton bust his lip and he also won a penalty. He would doubtlessly invite. His skill and confidence are not in question. But what of his bone density, his durability? He's still a teenage boy in a man's sport. Arteta needn't have worried. Dalman was excellent, shrugged off a tackle from Joe Linton. Yeah, we know what he did. Several of the academy players' families travelled. I think Dalman's family also travelled. Obviously, Gyökeres, we know he flew and he was greeted and he was paraded and all those kind of things. Arteta and Arsenal have made it a point to recruit for physical robustness. Gyökeres is no exception. In the Swedes' case, however, they've also recruited for personality. Arteta believes Gyökeres has the presence and self-confidence to cope with the expectation that comes with the 9 position and the number 14 shirt. After the 3-2 win, Arsenal's players congregated at a cocktail bar avenue. These pre-season tours offer the squad the ability to bond in social settings. That is great. After a day off, Arsenal trained in Singapore. We've obviously now at the point we've gone to Hong Kong. The gaffer's going to say it's amazing. Kepa and Kai Havertz went to a soccer school. Obviously, there's media requirements and things you need to do type of thing. We understand that, but again, it's not irrelevant. Bro, Sagner's not no club legend. Big him up because he was one of my favorite players, but club legend. I get it. Get your money, but what's Theo Walcott doing these days? Could have grabbed Theo Walcott. What's going on? Making nonsense comments there. But yeah, interestingly though, when you look at the training drill, the opening training drill, Arsenal once again finished the session with small-scale games. In Hong Kong, they divided the pitch into setting up congested 11-a-side games. Have you not seen the clip of Zubamendi setting up Gyökeres? And then from the goals gone in, who's the first to celebrate near Gyökeres? Who's running off the left-hand side? I'm not going to talk too much. And I know to the fans that share the same talking points as me, it's dark on the left-hand side. That individual we've got nothing to defend him with. But one last dance. So yeah. By this time, Arsenal were carrying 32 players in the squad, so some, such as Albert Sambi Lokonga, had to line up in the staff 11. Bro, they're violated Lokonga, really. One of Arsenal's 11s had Gyökeres up front, the other Kai Havertz. It was striking to see the difference in style. While Kai dropped into midfield looking to link the play, Gyökeres hovered around the last line of defence looking to make runs in behind. But we have to set up conditions where he can be hit. Odegaard can't be the only one expected to play those eye-of-the-needle passes. They need to come from inverted left back, the left wing, the right wing, vertical passes, splits in behind, sometimes go long with Raya, maybe even Gyökeres drop deep, someone running behind, variety of stuff. We know Gyökeres' cameo was brief. We know that we lost to Spurs. Interestingly, they approached it seriously. Assistant coach Miguel Molina and the first team analysts watched the game from a high vantage point as they would with a competitive game. Fair enough, because as we all know, it's like fans. You could be in the North Bank. You could be sat behind Mikel Arteta. You could be sat in Kroenke's seat. You could all watch the same 90-minute game, but see different things and have different perspectives. That's nothing unique or isolated to Arsenal. That's what everybody's doing, man. Big up Thomas Frank for his nice words on Norgard. We don't need to read that. We know you've known him for time. In recent summers, Arsenal had travelled straight from their final friendly to the airport to fly home. This time, they returned to their hotel for a final night in Hong Kong before departing on Friday, August the 1st. The players, including Noni Madueke, will report back to London Coley on Monday ahead of the friendly against Villarreal on August the 6th, which we will be doing a watch-along. We know our game kicks off against Manchester United, people. Okay. And yeah, like I said, people are saying the same things, the same things. But again, ESPN, they might have some little nuggets that we haven't seen. Sources said Sporting had proved difficult negotiators, but Arsenal Sporting director Andrea Berta showed his value in getting it over the line. Berta has impressed Arsenal's key decision makers who believe him to be every bit of a top executive they hoped they had landed after Edu Gaspar's abrupt departure in November. Sources said that some at Arsenal believed Berta was unattainable given his long-standing connection to Atletico Madrid. However, Tim Lewis and Garlick met with Berta along with other candidates before Berta later met with Arteta and finally Kroenke. Okay, Berta has been left to lead negotiations in many incidences this summer and regularly report back to the club's key decision makers. Sources said the Italians' clear and regular communication has been another welcome characteristic. Communication is simple, but communication or effective communication is vital. So then what the hell was Edu doing? Arteta, Lewis and Garlick, along with the reappointed director of football operations, James King, had settled on the need to add more scoring power at the top end of the pitch during their November meeting with the club's owners in LA before Berta's arrival. But the Italian had an active input in identifying the preferred options. Sources said Arsenal considered Isak at Newcastle, but harboured several doubts about deal. Not only did they believe Newcastle were extremely unlikely to let him leave, but whether his fitness record suggested he could be relied upon as a 100 million plus signing would need to be. The Gunners conducted a detailed background work on Benjamin Sesko at Leipzig for well over a year. However, during talks, suggested the deal would be expensive for a player largely untapped potential. A bit like Madueke. Sources, or better yet, figures quoted for the transfer fee in personal terms set off alarm bells, in part because of the possible downside if he proved to be an unsuccessful signing. Sources said the club was also conscious about the psychological demands of leading Arsenal's line and scrutiny of that position. We kind of went over that, so I won't bore you lot with that as well. Arsenal obviously originally hoped Gyökeres was there for our preseason tour. That never happened. Sources say there's an acknowledgement internally that the Gunners will have to adapt their style to get the best out of best from Gyökeres. He's not the player who is at his best coming deep to link the play in a way that Kai, for example, can. Instead, sources said Gyökeres will be expected to play to his strengths between the centre backs, which is music to my ears, running in behind as much as possible. Sources said this won't necessarily mean more long ball soccer. I don't know what soccer is, but hopefully they're talking about football. Just more of an emphasis on getting it forward quicker, which is music to my ears once again. There's also a recognition that poor player availability cost Arsenal dearly last season. We have gone over the little snippet with Gabriel Magalhaes. Sources said the summer's transfer policy has been significantly influenced by finding players with a good track record in availability. Arteta revealed that he effectively abandoned his tiered system of ranking players by the volume of matches they had to play. Nevertheless, a thorough line across all their signings this summer has been the pursuit of players who rarely are injured. Sources said there's still an acknowledgement that some of this is purely down to luck, no matter how meticulous the planning is. Big up Max Dowman. Arteta, better yet, search for balance. Arteta is notoriously meticulous and intense in his work, which might be part of the reason he has struck up an immediate rapport with Berta. However, sources said Arteta is more determined these days to remind himself to take joy from the work he's doing, which is also true in life, but you get joy from winning. There's perhaps somewhere in there an acknowledgement that his intensity needs to be nuanced. For example, sources said Noni Madueke offered to meet up with the Arsenal squad immediately for their Asia tour despite winning the Club World Cup with Chelsea in America just a few days before his switch. Arteta was initially keen on the idea, but then recognized the need for the player to take a holiday and enjoy the victory he just secured. It has, however, at times been difficult to reconcile that search for balance with what the naked eye saw. The club's 2 open training sessions on tour saw Arteta play a highly active role, physically pushing players around and joining in the sessions himself. I don't mind that, and I'm sure, above all, training needs to be enjoyable, and I'm sure when a manager gets involved, that's cool. Then again, he knows he must be prepared for anything, whatever comes around the corner. Okay, fair enough. Graham Bailey on Gyökeres said, one word, wow. That is the response I have had from inside Arsenal's camp when asked about Gyökeres. Well, they're not going to say the opposite. I'm told he could play tomorrow if the Premier League started. He's ready, which, again, for all you fat shamers, boy. Gyökeres made it clear, though, through the process, he's ready. And my word, he has blown coaches and teammates away already. Arsenal are not getting carried away, but his professionalism is shining through already. Arsenal really do think they've landed a good one. We know we've landed a good one. You know the vibes. Apparently, Arsenal are preparing the first bid for Crystal Palace winger Eze. A formal proposal is expected from the Gunners early next week, with the total value of the package expected to come to 60 million euros, which equates to 52. This would consist of an upfront payment of 30 million pounds, which we've heard this before, followed by a second installment of 22 million to be paid over the next 2 years. We understand Arsenal have already discussed an upfront fee of 30 million with Crystal Palace. Palace had previously indicated they wanted 68 million for Eze, whose release clause expires at midnight going into Saturday. So at this point, it is. It was never Arsenal's intention to match this figure, however. Sources have indicated Oliver Glasner's side are already weighing up replacements for Eze, including a potential move for Leandro Trossard, who has been linked with now Palace, apparently two unnamed clubs in the Premier League, clubs in Italy. I'm sure I've seen Atalanta, Inter Milan, a move to Saudi, Fenerbahce. Everything's on the table. 1 minute new deal, etc. Who knew? Who knows? While Arteta is open to the Belgian remaining at the club, using him as bait to secure Eze could be an attractive proposition. What do you lot think of potentially doing that? This would likely be conducted as a separate deal for accounting purposes. Palace's major target to replace Eze, however, is Lucas Paqueta of West Ham. Fair enough. And apparently he wants to sign Paqueta if they can't sign Eze. I mean, if they let Eze go. Ben Jacobs has said, my expectation is that Arsenal will just sign a 10 with Eze being the top target and less likely to sign a specialist left winger. It feels the last attacking-minded reinforcement for Arsenal will be a 10. So it's Eze or bust, really, if that's where you're at. Fair enough. Arsenal have told suitors, including El Nassr, that Gabriel Martinelli is not for sale. Would you lot make of that? Rodrygo has several intermediaries working on a Real Madrid exit, with the player favouring a Premier League move. However, Rodrygo's wage demands were very high for Arsenal, and a move to the Gunners no longer seems so likely, says ESPN Brazil. He's most attracted by Liverpool, but a move is unlikely as they focus on Isaac, who we saw the David Ornstein stuff. Since the end of the season, Rodrygo and his entourage constantly repeat in public and in private his plan is to stay at Real Madrid. However, in the last few days, the situation has changed and the departure is no longer ruled out by sources close to him. Again, his potential switch to Arsenal is unlikely due to high wage demands. The Brazilian didn't want to leave Real Madrid, but the situation is changing, people. So I have to see. We was linked with Moscardo of Barcelona, who apparently they've put on the market for 30 million euros. I wouldn't say we need another midfielder, but I would like another midfielder. Arsenal is apparently still keen to get rid of Gabriel Jesus and are planning to sell Gabriel Jesus in the final month of the transfer window. We all know Reece Nelson probably looks our best option off the left in pre-season, but Fulham have approached to sign both him and Zinchenko. So yeah, we need to get an absolute move on, don't we, people? But yeah, it would be nice to get Eze, I guess. So yeah, man, what are you lot saying? Madueke has potential to be like Mane. He just needs to you're moving mad. They need to sell him if he doesn't want out. Trossard and 35 million for Eze. Assuming Trossard wants to go there. Add Trossard into the deal. Why not? Palace can take Trossard and Zinchenko. We are okay with Trossard and 35 million for Eze. I hear it, but and I know we need to make money, but is there a reality where you just sign Eze, Trossard's part of the squad for at least a year? DG, my problem is, how do we make our right winger 1v1 with his opponent? Saka and Max had the same problem against Spurs. Free markers everywhere. It's crazy. And this is where Arteta needs to do a thing, man. Eddie was barbecuing. Brahim Diaz may be the new target if Crystal Palace plays hard to get and Diaz is cheaper. Lads, I'm going on a date with a baddie today. Wish me luck. Trust the process. Let's tell up, my friend. Tell you what's wrong with Arteta. His in-game management is crap. If he sees the formation ain't working, make the necessary adjustments. He doesn't have to change players, just revise and synchronize. Comment of the stream. Facts. Yeah, man. Listen, big up Halem, but not everyone can make it, bro. Some man might not make it now, and we might look back in a couple of years and they're kicking ball in the Prem. Arteta would invite you to dinner, hire professional chefs to prepare the dinner, and then ask them to serve biscuits and tea. Nah, I don't think he'd do that, man. If I'm honest. With the sale of Vieira, Nelson, Trossard, Lokonga, maybe Zinni and Jesus this summer, surely we need a few more players for us. Yeah, we can never. I want to be over-prepared for once. Yeah, even though those players are not key players, but have we really improved our depth? Eze, when featuring in that 10, is going to cook, and fans would realize how efficient and exciting he is. I don't think anyone could accuse him of not being that, man. The board was busy having good communications last season. Berta said enough's enough and whipped his big energy by signing players. Come on. 100%. You're moving mad. I hear it, man. Man, I really... Oh, sorry, I've seen that already. Yeah, Troops was in his bag with the Aubameyang one, man. What a time to be alive. Imagine a fit Aubameyang now in this squad. But to be fair, probably play off the left. But then again, Aubameyang off the left, Gyökeres and Saka. It'd be all right there, man. It'd be all right there, wouldn't it? It'd be all right there, man. It'd be all right there. People were almost at 200 likes. We got 183. Most fans love Eze. Yeah, the more I'm watching Madueke's highlights, the more I'm liking his signing. It don't matter if Arteta is still in charge. He's clueless and stale tactically. He'll be playing